Okay, so the last lesson on complete the square. The first time we talked about how to complete the square when a is 1, so there's nothing out front. Then the last lesson we talked about how to complete the square if there is a number out front. Today we're going to kind of talk about another case, and that's when things don't always work out with nice whole numbers. So, same process here, divide by the leading coefficient, move the constant term over, complete the square and add the number on both sides, factor the left, simplify the right, and then take the square root to solve. So let's look at kind of what happens here. Notice in this problem that there is not a leading coefficient, so we don't have to divide first. Okay, but when I go to complete the square there, I'm going to run into some issues. So let's start by adding 6 to both sides. So we get x squared plus 1x plus something equals 6 plus that same thing. Now, if I'm going to complete the square here, I have to take my b, which is 1, and divide by 2. So 1 divided by 2 is just 1/2. So 1/2 squared gives me 1 over 4. So we're actually going to add 1/4 to both sides. So on the left side, once I have that, I'm going to factor. When you divided 1 by 2, you got 1/2. So that's what's going to be in your parentheses. On the right side, 6 and 1/4, 6 plus 1/4 is 6 and 1/4. It's actually easier to make this an improper fraction. So you can either use your calculator to do it or you can do it by hand. 4 times 6 is 24, plus 1 is 25. So this is really 25 over 4. Bad spot on my board there. Okay. After that, everything is the same. We're still going to take the square root of both sides. So I'm left with x plus 1/2. And we're still going to simplify the right side. So the square root of 25 is 5, and the square root of 4 is 2. And then we're going to subtract 1/2 from both sides. So don't forget here that when we do this, we have two answers. We are going to do 5/2 minus 1/2, and then negative 5/2 minus 1/2, which gives us 4/2 and negative 6/2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. Okay, kind of a messy way to go about it, but we definitely still get answers we can use. This is not the ideal method, I don't think, to use this, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as we move on throughout the unit, but you can definitely complete the square even though you have fractions in there. Okay, so for the next problem, we're going to add 63 to both sides because there's nothing to divide by. And then when we do that, we get, I'll write that out again, x squared plus 3x plus something equals 63 plus that same thing. And we are going to go ahead and complete the square. So this time our b is 3. So we're going to do 3 divided by 2 and then square it. So 3 squared is 9, 2 squared is 4. So we're going to add 9/4 to both sides. Okay, so on the left side, when we factor, when we divided by 2, we had 3/2. And on the right side, we have 63 and 9/4. So if you want to grab a calculator to do that, or at least convert it, we're going to do 4 times 63, which gives us 252 plus 9. Makes it a little bit easier. We get 261. Over 4. 2 there. And then we're going to go ahead and solve by taking square roots of both sides. So the square root of the left side, square root of the right side. So we have x plus 3/2 equals 261 does not have a perfect square, but we can break it down. So I'm going to show you that in a second. 261 is actually divisible by 9. So if I do 261 divided by 9, I'm left with 29. So 9 times 29. So if you think back a ways, and we reviewed this in a previous lesson in this unit, the square root of 9 is 3. The square root of 29 we can't do, so we're going to leave that where it's at. And then the square root of 4 on the bottom is 2. Okay, so we have 3 square root of 29 over 2. We're going to go ahead and subtract 3/2 from both sides. I apologize, my board is not working in that one spot. So when I do that, I get -3 plus or minus 3 square root of 29. And then both of those were over 2, so we're going to make the whole fraction over 2. Okay, final answer. Okay, again, this is not the ideal method in this situation, but you can still use it. So we want you to be aware of that. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Go ahead and try these guided practice problems, have them checked out, make sure you're doing them correctly. Once you're done, go ahead and grab the homework and then attempt the quiz. Have a great day.